Hello, everyone, and welcome to the latest episode of the Tiny Brains podcast. I'm Kevin Joyce, CEO of Tiny Brains and your host. And today, as always, I have with me Peter Graham, Brigadier of Brains at Tiny Brains. So say hello, Peter.
Justin Morgan.
Wonderful. So, as always, we're going to go through the top stories in Exile from the previous week, and we're going to start today with some pretty big news from the Meta camp. Pete?
Yes. So it's a case of Meta partnering with LG. So last week, beginning of the week, there were rumors that there was this partnership going on, and Meta was going to work with LG, and LG were going to sort of make all the hardware. And then towards the end of the week, Mark Zuckerberg confirmed it by actually heading over to South Korea and meeting up with LG and shaking hands and going, yeah, this is a done deal. We're going to then look into the future and develop our next gen XR headsets with LG.
So the belief is that this is for Quest Pro 2, right? I'm not
Yes.
sure if that's officially been confirmed, but that's the current belief.
Well, that's
Now,
it.
my opinion on what this brings to the table is obviously LG's manufacturing processes. Um, I'm not entirely sure how much they'll be involved in the design because, of course, Oculus, when it was Oculus, I think it was just after the Facebook acquisition, they bought Carbon, which is a company that specializes in hardware design. They designed the Xbox 360 and the Xbox One control pads, and I assume some of their work went into the series, but it was a long time ago now. They also designed the original touch controllers, and obviously they would have had some hands in the Quest design.
Hmm.
So I could see, that seeing as Meta has that team in house, what would LG bring to the table on that front? So I think it's more going to be manufacturing, distribution, so on and so on and so on. So I wouldn't necessarily think that LG is going to have much involvement in the tech side.
I I would agree. I would have thought that, especially if it's going to be along the lines of a Quest Pro 2, Meta are already well in hand with the design and capabilities that they want to put in the new headset. So, like you say, I don't think LG are going to really have much input on that side of things. Maybe later on, some other headsets. This may be a long-term partnership where they are going to look at maybe the Quest Lite or some other designs. Maybe the AR headset that or AR glasses that Meta have been working on. But I think initially, yes, you're quite right. I think it's going to be mainly manufacturing that they're going to be doing.
On a little side note to this as well, from last week, we heard some tasty little tidbits about a company that's definitely not going to be involved in Meta's VR and AR works. I assume you saw these rumors, Pete, about the connection with Google, where Google approached Meta to ask, "Would you like to be involved with Google's VR headset?"
Yes, I have briefly seen these details.
There were no thumbs up from Meta on that, it seems. Lovely Google, wonderful company, clearly. They've done a lot of innovative technologies, and they've abandoned a lot of them very early. And it seems like they're going to be re-entering the VR scene after Google Cardboard and Daydream, both of which were abandoned very quickly.
Hmm.
And maybe Meta didn't want to get wrapped up with a company that just drops everything if it doesn't work out in a day or two.
Well, that's it. They were trying to get them on board with Android, weren't they, more than anything? But yes,
Mm.
Google does just drop them. I think the only part of Google that's like seriously involved in VR still is their ownership of Alchemy Labs,
Mm.
and that's as much as I can think of at the moment.
I can't see a future where Google doesn't get back involved in XR at some
No.
point, especially considering they haven't sold Alchemy. But yeah, I don't see it being just around the corner, and I also don't think that Meta would want to, want to get into bed with Google at this point. They've claimed a market for themselves, so why would they want to share it?
Exactly, precisely that.
Anyway, moving on, we have some fairly negative news. This is regarding Sony. This is Sony Interactive Entertainment, that owns the PlayStation brand, and bad things have been happening, Pete.
Well, yes, this continues the industry layoffs that have been happening over the course of last year and heavily into this year. And Sony have announced, I think it was 900 staff they were laying off, but that included the complete closure of Sony London studio, which is a great shame because they were the guys behind Blood and Truth and some of the real early PSVR stuff, weren't they?
They made the original God of War prototype when it was I can never remember the code name for it, but the PlayStation VR Z1, whatever, the Sony headset that never launched, with a couple of PlayStation Move controllers attached to it. They also made iToy and Wonderbook and Eye of Judgment
Yeah,
and all the basically everything that led to the current state of VR on games consoles was held by this studio. They were incredibly innovative, working away from traditional gaming into more immersive, interactive entertainment. And yeah, it's a real shame they're no longer with us.
precisely. And another studio that's been heavily hit under Sony's umbrella is Firesprite, the guys behind Horizon Call of the Mountain, which was the
Who-
major PSVR 2 launch title, wasn't it?
and it's a studio which they, I mean, in the grand scheme of things, only recently acquired as well.
Yeah, yeah.
So
So they've
yeah,
not been hit as hard as London studio. They are still going, but Firesprite have. I'm not too sure the percentages of how many staff have been let go, but it's still significant.
a lot. Yeah. So apparently this culminates in about I think it's 900 employees, which is
Mm.
8% of Sony's workforce, which um, you know isn't small.
No, not at all.
So yeah, that's some pretty negative news. I'm sure I'll run into a lot of people that worked at these teams at GDC later this month. Feel free to reach out, have a chat. We know lots of studios that may or may not be hiring. Always happy to try and help people with talent find new positions. So if you are looking, if you were laid off in these recent cuts, feel free to reach out. We'll put you in touch with some people.
Exactly. Yeah.
So moving on, we have some Qualcomm news.
That's it. The general manager and vice president of XR, Hugo Schwartz, is leaving Qualcomm. Now, many outside the core XR industry may not have heard of Hugo, but he has been a majorly key player in the rise of XR through Qualcomm. Qualcomm, as most of us know, Qualcomm's chips power a significant amount of the the standalone headsets. They're in every Quest headset, for example, and he's been there for 20 years. Um, every journalist pretty much knows Hugo because he was on every single call for for XR announcements. So it's a bit of a blow. It's a bit of a huge blow. It's slightly sad. He's going off to. He hasn't announced what he's going to do, but I don't know if he's retiring or going on to a new project. But it's sad to see him go because he was a figurehead.
Yes, I met Hugo at various events through my years. He was a relatively nice chap, you know. Always enjoyed having a chat with him about what Qualcomm were doing next. So yes, good luck to you, Hugo, and whatever it is you decide to move on to. And once again, feel free to reach out and chat and give us all the details on what it is. Next up, we have some more positive news, and this is revolving around the Meta Quest Game Pass, not Game Pass. Pete,
Meta Quest Plus. Yes. So last week they added, well, for the 1st of March, they added Games Catalog, which is a catalog of games. Funnily enough, 12 of them, in fact.
it's a significant step up in what Meta Quest Plus offers, in my opinion.
Yes, because normally when your subscription, I think it's $8 a month, you get 2 games, and that rollovers every month, but you still get access to those previous titles as long as you've downloaded them, and you're still subscribing. Now you still get those 2 rolling games every month, but now you get access to these core 12 titles, which, like Game Pass, will eventually roll over themselves, and they'll new ones will be added. So there's quite 12 games is fairly significant just to drop straight into there. And
Well,
yeah,
I think it's a good start. Obviously, at the moment, it's more comparable to PlayStation Plus than it is
yeah,
Game Pass.
yeah, exactly.
But it is also significantly cheaper than both of those. So if you are on a VR headset and you're into the idea of subscription services, I don't really think you can go wrong with this. I think it's a decent deal. And
Plus,
one day that catalog will grow.
exactly, and certainly if you're already a subscriber, then you're just getting more benefit out of it, aren't you now? So Whereas a lot of
Yeah.
subscription services just seem to be upping their prices. At least you're getting now more content for the same price.
So I personally am not a subscriber. I
Not
don't
bad.
think you are either, Pete. If you are a
Yeah.
subscriber to Meta Quest Plus, please do reach out and let us know what you think about it. Is it being worth the money so far? Um, I'd love to hear your thoughts. So I haven't really spoken to anyone who does subscribe, so it'll be good to know. So finally, we have more gaming news, which is, as we do every week, we seem to be talking about the Apple Vision Pro every single week. But this is just another new title coming to the headsets.
Yes. But it's an actual VR game, and it's a bit of a VR classic because it originally launched back in 2013. Proton Pl sorry, Proton Pulse. And it was released in the days before, even before Oculus Share, DK1 era, and the indie developer whose name I completely forget at the moment. Sorry about that, mate. He he's brought it to AVP because it's purely head gesture tracked. It's essentially it's a paddleboard game. You move the paddle around with your face, and pong in VR essentially. So it's one of those weird fun games that worked in VR 10 years ago, and now kind of works in on Apple Vision Pro. It doesn't need any hand controller hand controllers, hand tracking, or anything like that. So it's actually been fairly well received from what I've seen so far. I've not played it, but
As you say, this is a very old game. This was a game that was launched around the time I started in VR, which makes it very old because I'm very old. And it's great to see devs that launched products and probably didn't make any money from them or whatever else, thinking, you know what, maybe it's time I dig that one out and do something new with it. So great work. Keep going. Bring all those old DK1 Oculus Share titles to well, all the ones that were finished to newer headsets. Why not?
well, it because it was a game that came out for virtually every headset, Google Cardboard, Gear VR. Those sort of games would actually work really well on Apple Vision Pro. So yeah, you're quite right.
I was thinking that before about Gear VR titles. There's so many of them that would work well on the Apple Vision Pro. So go nuts, guys. Some of those games you barely recouped your investment. It was far too early, essentially, for VR. Why not give them another try?
Exactly.
Anyway, that wraps up this week. As ever, you can contact us on various different channels. I'm sure Pete is listing them all in the description below. And feel free to reach out to talk about anything about XR. We're always happy to have a chat. And also, once again, I will be at GDC later this month. So if you're heading out, give me a shout. Let's have some coffee. Thanks very much for watching.
Thanks.